Welcome to Built to Go, a van live podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Wagg, coming to you from the College of Curiosity. This time we're going to talk about 5 great driving roads that you can visit in the United States. And they cover the whole country and all different kinds of environments, and I've been on them all, and they're wonderful. We're also going to talk about why you should stop installing USB-A ports in your van. We'll have a product review of a way to make your wine bottles light up, if you want to. And a tale from the road involving things you won't believe. And, well, I'll explain when I get there, but thank you very much for joining us here for episode 202. Folks, I have a confession to make. I am recording this in February. It's February 26th while I'm recording this because while you've been listening to the last few episodes, I have been in Africa, and I decided to pre-record a bunch of episodes so I wouldn't have to worry about recording an episode in Africa. Now, I still may have, or way in the future, however it works, record an episode in Africa, but that won't be this episode, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know what the conditions are going to be like. And several episodes ago now, I talked about the difference between travel trailers and camping trailers. And I think I said that travel trailers were meant for 4 seasons and camping trailers were meant more for weekends or something like that. At any rate, disregard all that. The terms are pretty much meaningless. Every manufacturer makes up their own definitions, and some say camping trailers are the tough ones and travel trailers are the wimpy ones and blah. It doesn't matter. They're trailers. You're going to sleep in them. You're going to take them wherever you want. So forget about that. I apologize for including that apparently misinformation. But there you go. So there are many, many places where it is a lot of fun to drive in the United States, and I think we should celebrate them. And while many of us talk about where we're going to park for the night, we should also talk about where we're going to drive for the day because, well, there's some really amazing things to see in the United States. It's one of the things we have going for us that a lot of other countries don't. We have very varied landscapes where we've got the mountains of the Northeast and the deserts of the Southwest and the lush rainforests of the Northwest and the Everglades, which is the only one in the world. It's the only Everglades in the world is in Florida. And, well, I just thought it would be nice to take a break from whatever else is going on and talk about some of the really nice drives you can do this summer, this spring, or this winter if you're brave for some of these. Actually, one of them you can't because it's closed in the winter. We will get there. One of the first, most obvious and most easily accessible is I-70 west of Denver. If you go to Denver, and you'll be surprised. If you're coming from the east, the drive to Denver is pretty much flat. Oh, it's Colorado. It's all mountains. Yeah, not so much. Colorado is only the 25th hilliest state, or the 25th least flat state in the country. Most of the state east of Denver is just flat. It's like Kansas extended. But once you get to Denver, you can go over the mountains and just take I-70 west. You can take it all the way to Utah, and you will see some of the most stunning driving anywhere in the world. You will be on highways that hug these mountains and drive through canyons, and it's absolutely beautiful. You'll cross the Rocky Mountains, the Continental Divide. You'll drive right across it, and you won't mind that at all. Now, note, you'll end up in Grand Junction, Colorado if you keep going. But if you keep going beyond Grand Junction, Colorado, and try to make it to Green River, Utah, there's a stretch of 150 miles there where there are no gas stations at all. And that's an interesting place to drive as well. But make sure you plan properly and, make sure you fuel up in Grand Junction or in Green River if you're going the other way. Another absolutely beautiful route is Route 101 on the West Coast that stretches from Northern California through Oregon all the way to Washington. This road hugs the mountain all along the coast, and you will just see the Pacific Ocean from a height, which is interesting. You're not down low. You're up high many times, and you get this broad vista over the Pacific Ocean and these rocky arches in Oregon and Astoria and Cannon Beach, and it's stunning. In fact, you've probably seen photos on calendars and things of this drive, not even realizing it. They actually took the photo from a highway. Absolutely gorgeous. Lots of cute little places to stop and have lunch and do things. It's a longer drive. You know, you're going to be going through 3 states, but it's stunning. The first time I did this drive, I saw nothing. I saw absolutely nothing. I drove from Eugene, Oregon, all the way over to, I think it was Astoria, and then north to Seattle. I saw not one thing because it was foggy the entire way. Interesting thing you see here, too, if you look at the signs, there are tsunami warnings and, like, run this way if the tsunami happens. So, a very interesting place to drive. Number 3, one that fewer of you have actually seen or heard of, is Route 108 over Smuggler's Notch in northern Vermont. Now, this is a major road for Vermont. Vermont is a small place, and this road goes all the way over the top of Smuggler's Notch, which was so named because Canadian whiskey would kind of flow through there during Prohibition. And when you get to the top, the road has to go around these glacial erratic boulders. So you're driving like around these massive rocks that are the size of cement mixers. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. There's places to park up there and you can do hiking, and it is Vermont in all its glory. But it's also somewhat dangerous. I would not take a very, very large rig up here. If you're towing a long trailer, like I wouldn't take the Airstream up here. No. I would take my Sprinter up here, no problem. And they always close it in the winter. They can't plow it. So when snow starts to fall, usually the end of October, so they will close it and then open it again in April or May. They used to leave it open for snowmobiles, but so many people were dying on their snowmobiles that they've kept it. Now it's closed for snowmobiles, so there's nobody up there all winter long, which sounds like a good setting for some kind of mystery. And moving to the south, another absolutely amazing drive is Natchez Trace, formerly known as the Natchez Trace Parkway, and it kind of goes northeast to southwest in direction east of Memphis. It's kind of in that area, but it's a road made to be a beautiful place to drive. That's what it's for. And it was a trace, a trail, a path carved out by Native Americans many, many years ago. And then the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 1930s, turned it into a beautiful drive. That's what it is. And there's some museums there, but it's mostly just beautiful trees and you driving through them. And there's some campgrounds and a few rivers. There's places to fish, but it's just peaceful and gorgeous, and you won't see any tractor trailers or anything like that. It's only for pleasure vehicles. And if you're ever in the southeast looking for some place to drive that's just kind of away from it all, I highly recommend Natchez Trace. I was there, about 2 years ago, and I fell in love with it instantly, and I'm aching to go back. And finally, another really interesting drive that is another one you can only do in the U.S. is the drive from Miami to Key West. Now, where you're going to park in Key West, that's up to you. Make sure you do your research. It's definitely one of the more difficult places to stealth camp. I know someone who managed to do it for a month, but they were in an ambulance and they kind of made friends with somebody official there. So, that was how they did it. But Key West is notoriously hard to park in. However, the drive there is amazing because you will drive through all the keys and, little island and a bridge, little island and a bridge, and then you will finally drive across this 7-mile-long stretch that's wide enough that when you're in the middle, you can't really see land on either side. So you're just you on this highway in the middle of the water, and that's all you see. A great many movies have been filmed on this. One of them was True Lies, the scene at the end, and License to Kill, the James Bond movie, the scene at the beginning were both filmed there. And you can drive it. It's a beautiful, amazing drive, and Key West is a really cool place to visit too, as long as you can find a place to park. You can find places to park in Key West for the day. It's at night that's hard, and I can tell you the campgrounds fill up super fast. So I know there are dozens and dozens of other beautiful places to drive, but those are 5 that I've done that I particularly appreciate, and I thought I'd share them with you. Tech Talk. Okay, folks, it's officially time. Mark it on your calendar. It is time to stop installing USB-A ports in your rigs, or at least to include some USB-C ports as well. We are in a transition period, and I think now officially with the iPhone abandoning Lightning, it's time to embrace USB-C for everything. Nearly all devices that I'm finding now are USB-C. And we're in this like cable hell thing where your cable that comes with your iPhone has USB-C on both ends, but then you go to the hotel and they've got USB-A, and then you need to use an adapter, except it's loose and it doesn't work, and it unplugs and you didn't even know it, and you're not charging all night long, and you have a dead phone in the morning, and drives me crazy. So here's what you can do in your van. If you are going to install USB ports, install dual USB-A and C ports, and make sure they are PD compatible to some extent. And that will allow you to charge things like laptops and more high-powered things. Now, I know what a lot of people are doing, and I've done it myself, is they're just using 110-volt adapters and turning on their inverter to charge their devices. And sure, that works, but you're wasting some energy doing that. I think it's less important than it used to be because things are so much better now. But why not install something good? Like, I'll have a link in the show notes to one, and I haven't tried this one, but it's typical. It's a 12-volt round outlet that you can install anywhere in your van, and it has a USB-A 3.0, which is the best, and 2 PD charging ports. So you could use this to charge any computer or camera or whatever. And it even has a little button on it so you can turn it off, which is nice. So I really think it's time that this is what you should install. They don't cost any more than the other ones. This is $14.99. I mean, it's not a lot of money. So why not make it easy on yourself and install something that'll give you a little bit of future-proofing? Because you're going to regret it at some point if you don't. Product review. I bought a bunch of these, and I kind of like them. This is just a silly little thing. These are those little twinkle fairy lights that, everyone, you see them in all kinds of builds and stuff, and they run on batteries usually. These are solar, and the solar panel is on a wine cork. And the idea is that you put the lights inside a wine bottle, and then you cork it with the solar panel. And then you leave it outside, and it glows all night long. Or you leave it on your dashboard if you can, you can secure your bottle properly. And they are super cheap. They are crazy cheap. For $14.55, you get 6 of them, and each one has 20 LEDs. And I've been using them since last summer, and they're just kind of a nice little decor item. So in the Tiki Bago, I have one set up on the dashboard. Now, the Tiki Bago doesn't move, so that's not too hard. And it acts as kind of a night light. It charges during the day as the sun comes through the window, and then at night it kind of lights up the front so you don't step on anything. And I also have a few outside, and you can hang the bottle. You can just tie a string to the bottle, and you can hang them from trees and stuff. And they've lasted all winter long. In fact, I have cameras down there, and I can see in the cameras at night, even in the coldest nights, that these things are still glowing. So they do work. Now, the ones I have are just white, but they come in colors. There's a 12-pack that comes in colors, and then there's different colors of white. You'll see. You can pick whatever you want. This is not main lighting. This is not something you're going to light up your rig with. It's just for a little bit of fun. And heck, if you have a bunch of wine bottles laying around, why not do this? And the wine bottle part is optional, obviously. It's a little solar panel. You can do whatever you want with it. You can wrap the lights around anything. Just have some fun. Have some fun. Anyway, I'll have a link in the show notes. The ones I have are the Cynzia ones, Cynzia. I imagine they're all pretty much the same. Tales from the road. Okay. This is going to be a long one. I'm going to tell you 3 impossible tales. You're not going to believe these. These are insane that these things happen. But everything I'm about to tell you is completely true. And as I tell you these things, know that there are 2 principles at work here, and I will explain them both at the end. Okay? First story. I'll set the stage. First story. Salt Lake City, Utah, October 1988. Yeah, I had just moved to Utah, and with my girlfriend, fiance, soon-to-be wife, and then to be ex-wife. And we were, getting to know people, and someone introduced us to somebody that was one of their neighbors, and they said, they were a little bit rushed, It was like, hi, how you doing? My name's Jeff. And they're like, oh, hi, I'm Mark, I gotta go. And the guy's name was Mark, and he was in a super big hurry. And there was something bothering him. And the one guy I knew really well, Tom, I said, so what's up with him? And he said, I think he lost the key to his apartment. He doesn't know how he's going to get back home. And by this point in the party, I had had enough to drink that all awkwardness, shyness, anxiety was gone, and nothing but pure drunken arrogance remained. And I said, I'll find his key. And so I asked somebody if they had a lighter, a cigarette lighter. And someone handed me a cigarette lighter, and I said, okay. And I went out into the backyard of this house, which was completely dark. There were no lights there at all, and flicked the lighter and walked about 20 paces and bent over, and the key was right there. It was right there in the ground. It was like I psychically knew exactly where the key was, and I picked it up and handed it to him, and he just stared at me with jaw agape because he couldn't believe what I just did. And it's a true story. It's absolutely true. Okay, that's the first one. Again, I'm going to explain some of this afterwards, but that's the first story. The second one, this was many years later. I think this was probably in 2015 or so. We had a bunch of people gathered in Chicago to see, I think it was the Perseid meteor storm in August, which happens every August. And, Chicago is one of the worst dark sky places in the country. I mean, it's terrible here. We have a hard time seeing the moon. I mean, it's not a good place for star watching. But these are pretty bright shooting stars. So we went to a promontory that stuck out into the lake. And that seemed to be the darkest place we could get to without a boat or driving a long way. And we went out there and just kind of sat around and watched the sky, and 10 minutes went by, and 20 minutes, and 30 minutes, and we saw nothing. We saw some planes queuing up to land at O'Hare. We saw a couple of stars, but nothing shooting stars, and people were getting bored. And then finally, without having anything to drink this time, I got up and said, okay, folks, are you ready? Here it comes. We're going to see a shooting star. In 3, 2, 1, and I pointed to the sky. And a shooting star streaked across the sky right at that moment. And I said, there you go. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming out. And my wife Jen and I left. Absolutely true. Every single word of that is true. And the final one, which is a slightly different principle, but is still amazing, is I was in let me think about this. This is 2005. No, 2004. 2004. I was in the kitchen of my house in Vermont talking with my wife, who was then my ex-wife. I'm just trying to keep them straight here. And talking about what to do with my life, basically. I was in a mental health counseling master's degree program at the University of Vermont. It didn't feel like a good fit. I could talk a lot more about that. I was trying to, what should I do? And we were just having this discussion. I said, what I really want to do is run an organization like the James Randi Educational Foundation, which I've talked about a lot. And, I didn't know James Randi. I didn't know anybody in the foundation. I just knew that they existed and that they were in Florida. And I thought, that's really what I want to do. And a year later, I was the general manager of the James Randi Educational Foundation, running day-to-day things, planning events like the Amazing Meeting, arranging for the Amazing Adventure Cruises, and all kinds of things. All true. How did I do all of these things? Well, there's two principles at work here. One of them is, and this is a magician's trick that some say I shouldn't reveal, but I think things have changed now with YouTube and every magic trick in the world being ruined on YouTube. I don't think this principle is going to bother anybody, and I don't think Randy would mind me telling you. It was actually David Blaine who taught this to me, not directly, but from watching his stuff. And it worked kind of like this. Basically, you take a deck of cards and you say, think of any card. No, not the Ace of Spades, because a lot of people go right to the Ace of Spades. If they're one of those people, they're already amazed, because how did you know I was thinking the Ace of Spades? All right, whatever. And then they say the Two of Hearts. And then you open the deck of cards and boom, the Two of Hearts is displayed there. And you say, see, I knew that. Now, there's a way to do that trick no matter what they say. But the best way to do it is to hold the card out in front of them so they can't see it before they guess, and then show them the card. And if it's right, they think you are a god. But the truth is, it's only right 1 out of every 52 times, or 1 out of every 30 times, because there are certain cards that people tend to pick. Nobody picks the 4 of clubs. It's not a card people pick. People pick the 3 of clubs, the 2 of hearts, the 5 of hearts, the 7 of hearts, 7 of diamonds. Those are much more common cards, so you should always pick one of those. The reason this trick works is because it's only part 1 of a 2-part trick. The second part of the trick is that you say, if you get it wrong, like they say 2 of hearts, and you flip the card over and you show them that you had the 5 of hearts. You're like, oh, I was so close. Wait, give me another chance. And then you pull a deck of cards out of your pocket, and you have them say any other card, and then you'll always be right then, because that's a trick. So what happens in people's minds is they don't remember the time you were wrong. They only remember the time you were right. And that principle of magic is how I did the key trick and the shooting star trick. Now, I wasn't actively trying to do a trick with the key. That was just something that I just did randomly, and it worked. But had I not found the key, had I just bumbled around in that backyard like an idiot, nobody would remember. It would not be a story. It would just be forgotten. The only thing that matters is that it worked, and then it became a story. And with the shooting stars, I knew I was doing this. I was pulling that card out, just hoping it was the right one. And against all odds, it was. And so now people remember that I did that and wonder how I did it. And the answer is dumb luck. But if you do dumb luck enough times, you will eventually be right. And those are 2 times that I was. And I don't even remember the times that I wasn't, but there are many. I am always doing stuff like this, like I will point at the elevator door hoping that it'll open right at that moment. And it usually doesn't, but the times it does, those people who are watching me are super impressed. It's a stupid thing, okay? But it does make for interesting stories. Now, the JREF principle is a little different. How did I end up being general manager of the JREF a year after I expressed the desire to do this? Well, if you've ever watched Oprah or one of those, you've ever heard of The Secret. Well, I'm going to tell you the secret. There isn't any secret. You can ignore all the books and you can ignore Oprah and all that stuff about The Secret. There's no manifesting the universe or anything like that. There's just focus and attention. And by stating that I wanted to do that, I planted that seed in my mind, which made me constantly look for opportunities to make that happen. So what actually happened is that I started going to skeptic events, and I accidentally ran into James Randi in Julia Sweeney's backyard. Julia Sweeney is an SNL star. She did a movie called It's Pat. The story's too long, okay? But I met Randy in the backyard, and he was sitting all by himself. And I just went right over to Randy and said, "Hello, my name's Jeff Wagg. I've always admired your work. I'm wondering if there's some way I can help you out." And we arranged for me to show up at the office the next week, where I volunteered. And they liked what I did. I volunteered some more and then built myself up. And within a year, I was basically running the place. So it's interesting to note that you can tell these amazing stories and they just, the only answer is that he's psychic or whatever. No, there's mundane answers. And they're still kind of cool. I mean, I love that I have those stories. But don't be so quick to make things supernatural when you don't have to. Even for the most amazing stories in the world, They're often less amazing when the entire thing is explained. A place to visit. I went to a really strange place in Florida, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. I've lost track of time because you guys are in March and I'm in February, so we're in this weird timey-wimey world. But yeah, let's just say in January. I went to this strange place in Florida, and I did not add it to the list of the top 5 great driving roads because it's not all that great. It's just interesting. There's a road called Snake Road, and it was the first road built to connect the reservation, the Seminole Reservation, to paved road. Before then, there was this muddy dirt track, but most people actually traveled by canoes. And then during the Eisenhower administration, when the interstate system was being built, and this is the story I heard, I can't really verify this too much, Mrs. Eisenhower wanted this road built, but she had this idea that roads should be beautiful. Anytime you're driving down an interstate and you see flowers in the median or anything like that, that's an echo of what she was trying to do. And this road is in Florida, southern Florida, where everything is very flat and most of the roads are just straight. There are these big, long, straight roads. Some of them go 100 miles with nothing. So she said, let's make this road more interesting. And she made it like a snake. This road does not go from point A to point B. It goes from point A to point B to point C, point D, E, F, G, in this undulating snake-like shape to get from where you start to where you're going, which you end up at I-75 and you start near the reservation. It's bizarre. If you look at it from space or, you just look at it from a drone, it really looks like somebody tried to carve a snake into the Everglades. Now, having driven this road, it's annoying as hell. It's really, you have to constantly steer. There's nothing straight about this road, so you're always steering, and you're always trying to be careful to stay in the lines. And it turns out there have been an awful lot of accidents on this road, so many that they're actually trying to widen it so it's not like that anymore. But there is a side effect of this, and that is the wildlife. Because it meanders like it does, you see a lot more wildlife. It's a great place for seeing all types of waterfowl, herons, and egrets and things like that. You'll see snail kites. Alligators are not that hard to see here. And for the first time I can remember, I don't think I've ever seen them before, I saw caracaras on that road, which are an interesting, large, raptor-y kind of bird that lives in southern Florida. You can look it up. It's C-A-R-A, C-A-R-A. I saw those there when I was on this road. So just a little weird anomaly of a road. But if you're ever in the Everglades area, especially if you're going to go to the Atatiki, I don't know how to pronounce this, Atatiki, maybe. There's an Indian museum, okay? It's called Atatiki. If you go there, this road almost goes right there. And it's County Road 833. So that's exit 49 on I-75, which is known as Alligator Alley. It ends at Big Cypress. Anyway, you may even see a very big snake on this road because this is the area where the invasive Burmese pythons live. Just a weird little anomaly of a road, and it was kind of fun to drive and also pretty darn annoying. Resource recommendation. So when we got the Airstream, we were annoyed that they lost the keys. The dealer said they didn't have any keys, and they managed to find some for the deadbolt and a couple of the exterior doors, but they didn't have all the keys, and I was pretty annoyed at this. I mean, this is a fairly fancy rig. I feel like I should be able to lock it. I kind of feel like that's something that I deserved. So they said they would try to find me a key, but they weren't hopeful. I just gave up on them, and I found the keys myself. And I thought I'd share that resource with you, that if you have a vehicle that has a built-out back that has like RV-style doors on it, this site might find keys for you if you can't find them any other way. If you have any kind of rig with like external doors that have like storage hatches or anything like that, this site tries to keep all those in stock. And the site is easykeys.com. So that's exactly how it sounds, easykeys.com. And you go to that site and you'll see there's a section for RV locks. And what they do is you will notice that most locks have a number written on them. And you give them that number, and then they can send you the keys. And they're like $13 or $15 a piece, depending on the key, which isn't cheap. This is not the cheapest way to do this. But It was the easiest way to do it, and I was able to find the key I needed, and they have sent it to me. I haven't got it yet, but they are sending me the keys I absolutely need. So this very quick little resource could be a lifesaver for you if you have no keys. All you need is the number on the lock. And they'll also accept a photograph of the lock, which will help them make sure that you're getting the right key. So I sent those along too. They claim to have keys for just about everything. I mean, obviously Airstreams, A-Liners, Alliance RVs, Bigfoot RVs, Bolus, Capri Camper, Chalet, Chinook, Coachman, Dutchman, Escape Trailers, Forest River, General Coach, Holden, the brand from Australia, leisure travel vans, New Camp, Pacific. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The list is got to be a few hundred. They even have keys for your Thule boxes. So if you have a Thule box, you lost the key, they can get you one. So good resource to have. Good to know that you can actually get these keys. EasyKeys.com. And if you're wondering if you can just go to your neighbor's rig and get the number and send it to them and have them mail you a key to your neighbor's rig, apparently yes, because they didn't ask me for any verification that I own the rig or anything. So consider that when you're considering how secure your rig is. Well, folks, thank you very much for listening to... Well, folks, thank you very much for listening to episode 202. This episode was ad-free because of the kind folks that have donated at buymeacoffee.com/built-to-go. If you would like to keep this program ad-free, visit that site and buy me a gallon of diesel. And I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else does. Music, as always, is by Simon Weck. And until next time, remember the words of Bill Keane of the Weird Family Circus comic. Yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future. But today is a gift. That's why it's called the present.